Hey, beginning cellists, Mrs. Flowers here. As promised, we're going to do this video on the cello rather than the typical violin or viola that I use. I hope that you're open to page 20. On page 20 in our lesson, we learned a new note. We learned the eighth note. When we first learned how to play our instrument, we learned the quarter note or the ta. And ta or quarter note equals 1. And you guys are like pros at that. Now it's time to introduce a new note, which we did, an eighth note or a TT. Eighth notes get a half a beat apiece, making them smaller than quarter notes. And we talked about that during lessons, but what I'd really like to do is just kind of touch base on it a little bit again, and then go ahead and practice the songs. So I'm taking a look at 66, and I notice it starts with our new note, eighth notes. If we were in music class, with our general music teacher, we would probably, when we see that rhythm, say something like this: T, 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 ta, ta, and so on and so forth. That's called the Takadimi system. Now, when we're playing an instrument, we transfer that knowledge of the Takadimi system, or the TTs and the tas, to counting. So if I were to clap and count 66, it would go like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can hear that the clapping sounds the same as if I were to say T, 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 ta, ta. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to demonstrate one measure from 66, and I'm going to do so on, say, open D with plucking, and it would go like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And again, you can see that it was the same rhythm as the clapping. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the bow. So I'm going to grab the bow again. Make sure I make my very best sleepy bow hold, okay? Very relaxed. And so it's T, 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 ta, ta. Okay, so when you're using your bow, playing the full bows that we normally have been doing for all the quarter notes, like this, where we use much of our bow, won't be quite right for the eighth notes because they're faster and they're smaller. This is what your bow would look like with the rhythm that we're learning. It would go like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you'll probably notice that when you're playing the eighth notes or the TTs, I didn't use very much bow at all. I used very little. I used less than half. So what I'm saying to myself in my head as I'm playing the song, I'm thinking about exactly where in the bow I am and how much bow I'm using. So this is what I'm saying in my head as I'm playing. Frog, 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 full bow, full bow. So the reason I'm saying frog is because I'm hanging out down here in the bottom half of the bow near the frog. So I say that 4 times because there are 4 eighth notes. And as I say it, I'm actually doing it too, staying near the frog. And then when I have the quarter notes, I go ahead and use the full bow. Let's go ahead and play 66 with the bow together. Our first demonstration we're going to do is going to be with bow distribution or bow usage. So I'm going to say, instead of counting, I'm going to say the bowings like frog or full bow. Open D. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 66. Ready, go. Frog, 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 full bow, full bow. Frog, 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 full bow, full bow. Frog, 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 full bow, full bow. Frog, 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 full bow. And then gently lift your bow up off the string after your last note. Now, we're going to play it one more time, but with counting rather than saying the bowing's frog or whole bow. Same song, same string. Ready and go now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 let's move on to the next song. Pepperoni pizza. I'm going to go ahead and put the bow down. You do the same. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to practice pepperoni pizza, just pizzicato, reading the notes. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to say the note names out loud as I'm playing it. You do the same at home. So I'm going to make sure all my fingers are on the tapes before I start, and then let's count in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3. Then you're done. Okay, good. Let's do the same thing with the bow. Your bow distribution is still going to be frog, 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 full bow, full bow. Set your hand up for a high D, sleepy bow hold, nice and relaxed, and let's count in 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 Good. Let's move on to the next song. Now, the next song has a different rhythm. The rhythm ramp, 68, it's different than 66. You can choose any open string that you like. First, let's talk about the counting. We're going to start with what you already know, the Takadimi system again, the tas and the TTs. And in looking at the first measure, you would say ta, T, T, ta, T, T. Now let's translate that to counting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clap. It would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ta, T, T, ta, T, T, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Just an example of that first measure, kind of over and over again. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually pluck it before we bow it. Okay, so let's just get used to this rhythm. This time I'm going to use open G. Let's do something different. Let's do something new. So put your finger on open G and pluck with me 68. 1 and 2 and ready and go and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Then you rest. Translation with the bow. Let's talk about bow distribution again. Distribution is a fancy word for usage. Again, where are you in the bow and how much are you using? Basically is what it means. So again, for quarter notes, we're going to use full bows. That's what we start the song with. We start with a full bow. There's your full bow. Now I see 2 eighth notes. I'm here at the tip of my bow, or at least close to the tip. So what you're going to do next with the 2 eighth notes are you're going to say tip, tip, and you're going to hang out here near the tip as you do that. Tip, tip. Your next note is a quarter note. Again, that's a full bow. And you have 2 eighth notes left to go in the measure. Now you're here down by the frog. So you're going to play those 2 eighth notes down here, frog, frog. So one whole measure looks like this. Full bow, tip, tip, full bow, frog, frog. So what we're going to do is we're going to play it twice. The first time, we're going to stick with open G. We're going to work on the bow distribution. So I'm going to say frog or tip or full bow out loud. Number 68, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and tip, tip, full, frog, frog, full, tip, tip, full, frog, frog, full, tip, tip, full, frog, frog, full, tip, tip, full, done. And you gently pick the bow up off the string when you're done. We're going to do it again with the bow, but this time, instead of saying frog or tip or full bow, we're going to count out loud. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, open G, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 good. Go ahead and set the bow down. Take a look at 69 now. 69 is a D major scale going up, which means we start with open D at the bottom and work our way up to high D. And when you compare 69's rhythm to 68, they're identical. So you know how to count it already. So let's go ahead and pluck it and name the notes while we do so. We start with open D. Go ahead and shape your hand as if you're holding that water bottle or if you've got a tennis ball right in palm, and keep it in that shape even though you're playing with open or starting with open. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and rest. Let's do the same thing with the bow now. So let's go ahead and pick up our bow. Very relaxed, sleepy hand on our bow. And we're going to start with that full bow and then tip, tip. So basically you have like a main note, quarter note, and then 2 mini notes on open D. And then after you complete that pattern, then you start to add your fingers. Start with open D and count with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and all right, really good. Next, number 70. And we noticed when we were in lessons that measure 1 matched measure 2, which matched measure 4. So once you learn one of the measures, measure 1, you know 75% of the song. The only measure that is different than all the rest is measure 3. So let me start by demonstrating measure 3. And those are eighth notes. I see 4 D's in a row and then 4 E's in a row. It would be counted and played like this at the frog. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, if you're demonstrating measure 1 or 2 or 4, it's simply 3 full bows and then a rest. 1 and 2 and 3 and freeze. And then you do the next measure starting from that point from which you froze. No bow lifts until you get to the end. We're going to go ahead and do the bow lift and the repeat sign once we get to the end. So we're playing the song 2 times. It starts with F sharp. Let's go ahead and get started. F sharp and then E and then D. Full bows. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and freeze. F sharp again. 1 and 2 and 3 and frog. Go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Bow lift. Set. Freeze. Freeze. Frog. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Done. And gently lift. One more song to go on this page. A Claire de Lune, which we're going to play slowly. says to go ahead and play it andante. I'd like to take the opportunity to do this one pizzicato first. All right, so let's really take a look at the note names. We're going to do half of the song. We're going to go all the way up to the bow lift, just pizzicato. So let's go ahead and name our notes as we play. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, go. D, 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 E, F sharp, E, D, F sharp, E, E, D. Then pause. I know there's that bow lift in the middle, but I think playing it pizzicato, just that half, will do just fine. Now pick up your bow and let's play the song with the bow. Keep it nice and relaxed. Hold your water bottle, put your thumb on the back, and get ready to play. Even though it's open D, have your hand ready to go. And join me, go nice and slow. Frog, 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 full bow, full bow. Ready, and go, and D, 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 E, F sharp, D, bow lift, go. Full bow, frog, and then full bow. Done. So you may have noticed a little bit that every time I play an F sharp, it gets a kind of a funny little sound. There's something on the cello, it's called a wolf tone. And I think I've got one on my F sharp on this cello. It's not my cello, it's the school cello. So sometimes when I pick up a cello and I hear that funny little sound, I go, oh, there's a wolf tone. So we could talk about that another time. Good luck on page 20. If you have any questions, please let me know.